Hey guys, Chris from AxeFX Tutorials here, and I've heard the good news that some people have received their AxeFX 3. That's awesome. It's such a great device. I'm really excited for everybody. But I wanted to make a quick video. I didn't plan too much here, so we'll just see how it goes. Make a quick video on how to get around the front panel. It's pretty similar to the AxeFX 2 if you're familiar with it, but there are a few changes and improvements that I'd like to just point out. So first of all, when you boot up the AxeFX 3, you want to check if there's any firmware updates. You want to be on firmware 1.03 as of the recording of this video. And from the main screen right here, one thing I want to point out is that on the screen at the bottom, there are these menus that change depending on what screen you are currently looking at. So right now we're at the home menu. This is the preset name and a bunch of scene names if you have it. You have a mini tuner here. All right, that note's in tune. That'll show if you want to tune really quickly. You have the preset name, like I said, and you have scene names. Now from here, you want to press setup, which is the E knob. So these knobs under here turn and they also press in. So you want to press it in gently. There's that. And you get to your setup menu. And we can see right now I'm on AxeFX 3 version 1.03. So that's what you want to see as far as the recording of this video. 1.03 is the latest firmware. And then you can press E to exit again, or you can press the exit button over here. But just keep in mind, you want to always look down at this bottom menu to see what's there. Anything in this bottom block, this little rectangle here, is the push function. And anything above it is the turn function. So you can see right here it says nav above A. If I turn A, you'll see that it navigates here in this menu. I can also turn the value knob over here, but you want to, like I said, pay attention to what's in this menu down here. The push function is in the block, the little rectangle, and above it is the turn function. Now there's dashes here, meaning there are no other functions for these buttons, and E here happens to be an exit if I push it. So there's that. Looking at that same menu down here, you can see that B from the home screen is the tuner, so I can press that, and I have the nice tuner. There's my low E string. Now to get out of the tuner, you have to press the exit button. That makes sense. In the tuner, I'm fine. Exit to get out of it. Let's go back in the tuner real quick. I want to show you here. By default, you'll hear your strings as you tune, but I've already set this. If we go to config page, and up here, just like the AxeFX 2, we have tabs. These represent different pages of settings or displays or something like that. So right now we're on the tune page. If I press the page right button, and I know it's out of focus on my camera here, it's just how I set it up real quick, but I press page right, I'll go to the next tab. It happens to be the config menu for the tuner. On the AxeFX 3, you can choose the source of the tuner now from input 1, and notice there's no menus, no quick menus down here, so we're going to use the value knob for everything here. So no menus here, you're probably going to use the value knob. Right now it's set to input 1. I could change it to input 2 if I had a second guitar in there, 3 and 4. We're using 1 right now, so I'll leave it there. But what I was going to get at is this mute function. And to move this blue cursor around, the selection box or cursor, you're going to use the nav keys up, down, left, right, just like before. So I'm going to nav right, and we're going to get to the mute page. Now I'm going to turn the value knob to off. So right now there's no muting if I use the tuner. I'm going to page left to get back to the tuner. And you can hear that the guitar is making sound. I'm running through the current preset. And some people like that. They want to tune and hear the guitar. But I usually don't. So we'll go page right back to the config page here in the tuner. And I'm going to set that to output. I don't want any sound coming out of here. No sound coming out of here, including a looper or delay trails or something like that. I personally just want a full-on mute. There's calibration if you don't need 440 hertz, and there's some offsets here on this page, but we're not going to use that. Anyway, you want to make sure you page back to the tune page so you can actually tune. We're going to get out of the tuner. Remember, it's exit to exit the tuner. Makes sense. And here we are. We're looking at a preset. Now, when you boot up and you install the firmware and everything, you're probably going to end up on preset 1. So I'm going to turn the value wheel. I'm clicking it one click at a time, and we're moving back in presets. I'm turning it counterclockwise to go that way in presets. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to preset, in this case 0. That's how I have it configured right now. And this is the first preset. So that's a 59 bass guy, a Fender style amp. Now on the Axe FX 2, you might have been used to turning like an A knob or something to change scenes. On the Axe FX 3, we're going to use the nav button. So I already showed you that value can scroll through presets one at a time as you turn it. While we're here, I'm going to show you that nav left and right also goes from preset to preset. So let's nav right 1, and it goes to the next preset. Preset up, preset up, preset up. We'll go back to 0, preset down, using the left nav. There's that. Now, left and right do presets. What do up and down do? Well, you might have guessed it. It does scenes. Since scenes are in numerical order 1 through 8, up and down moves scenes. So right now, here's our crunch scene on this factory preset. I'm going to nav down, and you'll see it changes to scene 2. Nav down again. So it's changing scenes, adding delay and things like that. So if we go from 3 to 4, I'll show you just playing. So again, these factory presets have examples of scenes and things like that. Let's go to the next one. This one only has 2 scenes programmed, normal and bass input on the 65 bass guy. This one happens to have no additional scenes. A few there, things like that. So let's go to, I think it was preset 23. I like that one. It has a few scenes. It's a Friedman BE100, and here's scene 1. And there's scene 2, which is a different amp model. It happens to be a different amp model, so we're gonna go there. And here's HBE V1. So it's the HBE version rather than the BE version. And then there's another scene here with yet another one. So that's how to quickly get around presets using either the value knob to change presets or the left and right arrows to change presets. And then within a preset, if there are scenes, you can move up and down. Now, even if there aren't scenes like in this preset, up and down will still change scenes, but there might not be anything programmed. So you can still change scenes, but it really depends on what is programmed there. So let's say you find a preset and you're trying out the different scenes like this. And you're thinking, okay, I hear some differences, but I don't know exactly what's going on. I want to see what's happening within the preset itself. You want to go to your layout, and right here on the bottom menu is a layout button, and that is the push function of knob C from the home screen. So we're going to press layout, and there it is. There's the familiar grid that we know. Now to get back to the home screen from here, we can either hit home like that, or we can hit exit. Now, the home button will pretty much always go back to this screen right here. This is the home screen. Pressing home will pretty much always get you back here to this front page of the home screen, your preset name with your scenes. Now, the exit button also does that, but the exit button is kind of more like a back button, one step back. And for the most part, exit goes back one step at a time. So I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to go into the edit of this block. If I hit home, again, I go right back to that home screen. But if I go to layout, then into the block editor, if I hit exit, it's going to go back one step to the layout, then back one step to the home screen. But home screen to get here, or exit to go back as you step through it. Anyway, go back to our layout, and now we have our grid. So we're very familiar with this view in the AX8 and the Axe FX 2. Here is our grid as it is in this preset. We have input, a space, wah, phaser, drive, amp cab, all of these things, right? And right now we're looking at these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks in 6 columns. And I want to look at the end. I have to nav all the way over. Okay, that's what's at the end. Okay, now I gotta go nav all the way back. You don't have to do that anymore on the AxeFX 3. There is a new and cool zoom function, and now if we look at this menu down here, we see a ton of options here for these 5 knobs. We have a zoom, which I'm going to show you. We have bypass, delete, cable, and controllers. Those are the push functions of these knobs. Now you don't have to memorize this. They're right here. Just read what's on the bottom of the screen. So watch this again. Right now it says zoom, bypass, and so on. If I go home, it says nothing, tuner, layout. So always look at the bottom of the screen to see what your conditional menus are, as they call it. Anyway, back into the layout. I was talking about looking at all the blocks instead of having to do this just to see what's in the preset. Instead of tapping, just press zoom. So I'm going to tap the A button, press it in, and let go, and there it is. I now see the entire grid, all 6 rows and all 14 columns, I think it is. There's that. So, and from here, you can still navigate. You can see that little yellow box going around. So from this whole view of the preset, you can go and say, okay, well, I want the chorus to be enabled. Well, how would I do that? On the AxeFX 2, there was an effects bypass button, but it's not on the front panel of the 3. That's because there's conditional menus down here. The B button here, the push function is bypass. Remember, in the box is the push function, and on top of it, that's what that little arrow is, it's the turn function. In this case, in the layout menu, turning A would change scenes, turning B would change channels of the selected block, turning C would change the block level of the selected block, and then D and E are sort of navigation tools right now. So you can use these to move much quicker than sort of tapping the nav arrows here. But anyway, let's say we wanted from here to turn on the chorus. We want to engage or turn off the bypass. So here I'm going to play. Now I'm going to press B and it'll engage the chorus block. Really cool. Okay, I don't like that. I can press that right there and it's gone. Now let's zoom back in. We'll take off the zoom out. We'll press A again. And here we are. We still have the chorus block selected and B is still bypassed. We can do the same exact thing just in the zoomed in view. Really, really cool. I'm going to bypass that for now. Let's go back to the zoom out view. And let's say, oh, I need to level my preset. And as we all know, it's usually best to level your preset using the level parameter in the amp block. Well, how do I get there? Previously, we would have had to press the edit button to get into the block. I know I'm skipping ahead, but I just want to show you. Then we have to page over to wherever a level control is. There it is. And then we turn the value knob to change that level. Well, you don't need to do that anymore. You still can, of course, once you're in this editing area. But from here, it's really cool. The turn function of knob C is the block level like I showed before. And in this zoomed out view, we have our VU meters. Here's output 1 left and right. Here's output 2 left and right. Now I'm going to zoom back in. Watch up here. They're going to disappear. That's because we need the whole screen for the grid. That's our CPU meter and our tuner like we had before. But watch again up here. I'm going to hit zoom out. And there they are. And as I play, you'll see that I get my VU meter. I already knocked my guitar out of tune. Let's tune it real quick. There it is. Mini tuner right there. Super easy. I don't have to back out, go to the tuner screen. Anyway, here's my amp block, and it's leveled pretty well. Whoever made these factory presets, did a good job. Anyway, let's say it's still too loud. Right here, I can just turn the block level knob, which is C, and you just have to make sure you've selected the block you want to change. I've already selected the amp block. It's yellow around here. I know it's hard to see on video, but easy to see in real life. There's that. I'm going to play and turn this C knob to adjust my amp level and watch the VU meter. There it is. Very simple. So leveling your presets has become so darn easy from the front panel with the VU meter that's always there in the zoomed out mode. And we can change our block level right there without going into the block edit. So nice. We can also change channels of our block, which I won't get into in this video. But if you understand channels, which used to be XY on the AxeFX2, you can change channels right here with the B knob, the turn function. Okay, anyway, another turn function is the scene knob. Now, if we go back to our home screen, remember, in this particular preset, we happen to have 4 scenes, BEV1, C45, and so on. Now, in the layout view, we can't see the scene names. That's okay. But right now we're in scene 1, and I wanted to think, like, what is changing as I change these scenes? Now, if we zoom back in, we can see a little more detail. If we look at the block, let's look at the amp block right now. I don't have it selected, but I just want you to see it. And again, a little hard to see on the video because of lights and all that, cameras. But if you look on it, it says amp, so you know it's the amp block. Then it says 1 up here, and then below that it says A. Now if you look at the drive block, it says DRV 1A. Phaser says PHR 1A. The first letters, of course, are what the block is: amp, drive, phaser, and so on. The 1 is the instance of the block. Amp block 1, drive block 1. I'm just going to really quickly add drive block 2 just so we can see it. There it is, drive 2. If I press enter to put it in, let's put a drive 3. There it is. So drive 1, drive 2, drive 3. So that's what that number means, and it, as you're adding the block, it shows you down here. I'm going to delete those real quick. Skipping ahead, I know I'm skipping around, but if you press delete here, which is the push function of C, it changes a block into a shunt. Now that's genius, because instead of just deleting the block and breaking all your cables, you still get sound, you just have a shunt pass through. From a shunt, if you press delete again, then it fully deletes that block. I'll show you that with the phaser block real quick. Here's our phaser selected. Let's say, I don't really want that. If I press delete once, it turns it into a shunt and I still get sound. Anyway, back to this. It says the name of the block, DRV, which is drive. Then it says 1, which is the block instance. A is the channel number, and I know A is a letter, but we're going to call it channel number. Channel number A, B, C, and D. Most blocks have 4 channels, A, B, C, D. Some only have 2, A and B. And some, I think, only have 1 channel, like very few, like a RTA block or something like that. Anyway, so right now we have amp 1A, and that's in this scene. Now let's change scenes so we can see if anything changes. Now, in this zoomed in view, we can see more detail like that in the block. When we zoom out, we can't quite see it since there's less room to put things. We can still see the name of the block, which is great. We don't have to use symbols or like color coding or anything. It actually says amp, so I know that's an amp block. But when we zoom back in, we can see that extra detail of amp 1A. So now I'm going to change scenes to look if anything's happening in the amp block as we turn it. So I'm in scene 1, it says amp 1A. I'm going to change to scene 2. Oh, they've set it so scene 2 changes the amp block to amp 1 channel B. Change it again to scene 3, amp 1 channel C. And scene 4 is amp 1 channel D. So similar to the AxeFX2, scenes can change the channel status. In the AxeFX2, it was X or Y. On the AxeFX3, scenes can set the channel status for every block, channels A, B, C, or D. And it can also change the bypass. So I'm going to engage this block real quick, drive in scene 4. And if we change to scene 3, it turns off. Back to scene 4, it's on because I've set it that way. Now I could store this and it'll always do that, but we're just showing some examples right now. So that's a quick way to navigate with scenes while you're in the layout. And the same thing would work in the zoomed out view. It's just you couldn't see exactly what was changing. Or could you? You could. Depending on what block you have selected, I've now selected the amp block. Remember, we have a quick channel change knob down here. Happens to show D. If I change to scene 3, it'll show C, B, and A. So that's another way to view what's happening just on that one block by itself. Now, when I was zoomed in, if these other blocks happen to be set to different channels, those would change as well as I changed scenes, but they're not set that way in this example preset. Okay, so that's a little bit of detail for the layout. I'm going to exit back to home, and I want to show you a few more things just to get you started. Now, from here, let's say I want to get to a preset way down on the list. I could just keep pressing this, or I could turn this a little quick. It'll kind of go through them, but that's not fast enough. From the home screen, remember these are different tabs, different pages, I can go to my presets page. So we're going to page right once from the home screen. So home, page right, and I get to my preset list. The one that's blue highlighted is what I happen to have selected. I'm on fast lead 1. Now, from here, I can either use the value wheel or the nav buttons to move around. Now, as you can see, the blue highlight is still on fast lead 1. That's what I'm currently playing. As I move this value knob, I'm not changing presets yet, and that's a good thing. The way this menu works is you can jump around, like that song says. I can jump around to different presets just to see what's in the list, but I'm not changing presets. Here, I'm gonna hold a chord just to show it. You can hear that the sound isn't changing, but if I want to choose a preset, I can find it here, and let's do this one, Crystal Echoes. All right, that's the one I want. I knew it was 168, so let's say I knew the number. From here, I press enter, and it loads the preset and takes me back to the home page. Again, I can go back to the preset page by pressing page right to go to this tab, presets. There it is, and I can choose another one. Now, let's say, oh, I know the name of it. It was like Penta something. That's the one I'm looking for, Penta something. But I don't remember what number it is. Well, guess what? Again, this menu on the bottom has changed, and now we have a Sort AZ button. So I'm going to press A, and it's going to change this to alphabetical order. Now, I had a preset that was started with a C, so I've jumped over there. But now remember, it was like Penta something. So I'm going to use the nav buttons to find where P is. And let's see, Pentalizer 3. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Now, if I play, remember that I'm not selecting the preset just yet. I've just moved to the preset, and to enable or engage or choose the preset, I have to press enter. Very easy. So choose the preset, press enter, and now we're going to choose Pentalizer 3. All right, so that's what that one sounds like, and that's how you can move around presets pretty quickly, either alphabetically, A through Z, of course, or pressing it again, I go back to the actual numeric order, and I can choose my presets there if you know the number. Okay, so let's say you've gone through your factory presets and you're like, okay, I like some, I will note those down for later, but I want to make my own preset. I want to see what I can do. Okay, first I would suggest going to a blank preset slot. So we're going to go to the presets page from here, and I'm going to make sure I'm in number order, numerical order, and I'm just going to go all the way back here to where there are some empty slots. And let's just go to 450. So I've selected 450. We're going to press enter. And you can see it by default, it says empty. You can also go to a preset that you just want to change and overwrite, and you can do that too. But I chose an empty slot. Let's hit layout, and I'm going to zoom out just to make sure, yep, it's completely empty. And if I play my guitar, nothing going on because there's nothing in the preset. Okay, now on the Axe-Fx 2, if you're familiar with that, you might have been used to doing something like this. I'm going to skip around a little bit, but check this out. I'm going to go to the very front. Now on the Axe-Fx 2, we had a permanent input block here. We couldn't do anything about it. It was input block 1 on all of these. So I'm going to mimic that. We want to put input 1. You just turn the value knob. I'll review this in a bit, but you turn the value knob and press enter to choose what you want. And on the Axe-Fx 2, you might have been used to going like this. I'm going to press and hold enter, which creates the cables that connects all the blocks. So this is for people who are familiar with the Axe-Fx 2. This is what you would probably do. You go boom and hold this, and it would fill up the entire grid with shunts and cables so you would get sound. Now on the Axe-Fx 2, again, on the right side, we had a permanent output block. and it was output 1, and whatever was here would automatically connect to it. So to mimic that again, I'm just going to add output 1. And this is what our preset would look like on the AxeFX2. We'd have a permanent input block. We would hit enter and hold it, and it would fill all of these spaces, and we would have our signal go straight through. Now we have all of these shunts, and again, on the AxeFX2, you had to do that to create a connection from input to output. And if we zoom out, there it is, input, all of these blank things to output, and then you'd probably put like amp1. So you can add blocks from this zoomed out view too. I do that from time to time. Amp1, cab1, and if you only used amp and cab, you'd have all these empty blocks, which is kind of funny. I'm going to exit the preset without saving. I'm just going to go up and down. I haven't saved, so it's going to be blank again. I just want to drive home the point that on the AxeFX3, let's go to the very front. Oh, no, let's do it in the middle. We can zoom back in. I'll just do it this way. Let's add an input, enter, and then we'll connect it. I'll review this again. I'm just showing it quickly. Let's just put a chorus block. Why not? And then we'll put an output. And that's all we need to make sound. Input 1, output 1. There's only 3 blocks in this preset, and I have sound. And if we zoom out, you can see there's all of this other space, but we're only using these 3 blocks. I could actually go in straight to output if I wanted to, just to drive the point home. So let's review deleting. If I press delete once, it turns it into a shunt. I still get sound. If I press delete again, this is when it breaks the signal path. You can see the cables went away, and now I don't get sound. So how do I move this over? We are going to go to our Tools menu. We're going to page over to Tools. We're going to select the block we want to move using the nav keys. I'm going to move the yellow box around the block I want to move. We're going to change the function to what we want. Copy scene, copy channel, move the entire row down, up, whatever. Let's move the entire row up. You're going to hit execute. The entire row moves up. But now I want to move the out block 1 to the left to fill up that space. We're going to hit execute. And there we are. Now from Tools, you don't zoom back out from here. You're in a Tools mode. You need to go back to the Edit mode. So we're going to page left twice. And you can see there's still no sound. There's no connector here. We need to add a connector. Now, before I showed you can press the Enter button like you could on the AxeFX2. But on the AxeFX3, there's a dedicated button, just so you remember where it is. Enter still works, as I showed you. But there's a cable button, which happens to be the push function of D. So let's do that. I'm going to select the block from the left. Make sure it's selected. It's the input block, happens to be. Press the cable button. And it's saying, oh, do you want a cable from in to out? Or do I want a cable from in to below? I would use the nav buttons here to choose the next block on the right. Which one do I choose? Well, in this case, we're just going to do this. Very simple. I hit cable again, and there it is. So you can use either the enter button or the cable button right there to cable things. But again, just showing you, I actually have sound, and I only have those 2 blocks. So keep in mind, you don't need to fill up a whole row of shunts. You don't need to put empty spaces unless you think you're going to put things in between other blocks at a future time. Anyway, I'm going to exit back to the home screen. I'm going to leave this preset and come back again just to blank it out. Since we didn't save anything, it will be blank again, and there it is. So let's create a really quick preset with a few options. Now, I could go all the way to the left just so I make sure I have enough room, but just to drive it home again, I'm going to start here. Why not? Now, remember, on the AxeFX3, I'm going to zoom in, we have to add our inputs and outputs. That's a big difference from the AxeFX2, but it's way more flexible for changing your rig, adding a second guitar to the layout or anything like that. It's really nice that all the inputs and outputs are individual and separate now. So we're going to select a blank block space. And from here, we're going to turn the value knob until we get to what we want. We turn it once, it shows a shunt. We actually want input 1. It's at the front of the list. Once you've selected what you want, you press enter. There it is. Input 1 is now on the grid, and I'm sending input to this, but it's not going anywhere, so it needs to go somewhere. So I'm going to move over to the right just so we see more blocks. Now, from here, some people will go Okay, I just added input block. Now I'm going to go here and add an amp block. You know, this is their workflow, and you turn to amp block and press enter, and there it is. Okay, now I'm going to go back and connect them. So I press cable a few times until it's connected. You don't have to do it that way. Of course it works, but there's a faster way. Again, I'm going to just blank that preset real quick. Go back into the layout. Let's add our input block and hit enter. Now you're already on enter. You've just pressed enter. Just press it a couple more times. Enter to start connecting to the next block, and enter again to connect. And in this case, create a shunt because there just happened to be nothing there. I could have done that with the cable button as I showed you, but I was already on enter, so might as well. Now let's leave that space there for now. So I'm going to press enter again twice. Enter. What block do I want to go to? Let's go to the next one. Now let's put an amp block here. We're scrolling to the amp block with the value wheel and press enter to put that amp block in. Now from here you could add a cab block and whatever you want. I already know what amp block I want, so I just want to show you. From here, I've already put the block in. It exists in the preset. From here, to enter the edit mode of any block, you press the edit button. So in your mind, I want to edit the amp block. I press the edit button. There it is. And generally, you'll start on the first page of whatever block you enter. And I know I want a Friedman, so we're going to just nav. We could use the value wheel as well, but I just want to go here. And we're going to add a Friedman HBE 2018. Remember, these are tabs with different pages, and you would know this if you're familiar with the AxeFX2. Now I'm going to page right to go to the next page. And on the AxeFX3, the screen is much bigger, so we have room for two rows of parameters. Remember, this bottom menu changes, so we have reset if we want to reset this channel of the block. We have bypass to turn the amp block on and off. We can go to modifiers, which are like your expression pedals or LFOs. I'm not going to get into that here. And then we have row here, and we have more. So let me show you row. If I press the D knob, watch my cursor here. It's currently selecting input drive. If I press row, it jumps down to this next row. Now, you notice there's 5 things on screen, and there happen to be 5 knobs under here. Well, guess what? Of course, they correspond to whatever row you have selected and whatever knob or parameter is in line. So let's go back to row 1 by pressing D. A, the turn function of A will adjust the input drive. The turn function of B will adjust the bass, mids, treble, and in this case, it's a switch on and off, bright switch. Now from here, since I've edited these with these knobs, I could move my hand all the way over here. Oh my God, that took so long. To the nav down, and watch what'll happen. Nav down, boom. I'm now in this row with level. And from here, I could use left and right, up and down to select different things. Right, up and down, left and right. And let's say I want to adjust the depth. I could use the value knob too. It's a little bigger. Sometimes if you want to change quickly, you can roll that value knob a little quicker. So it depends how you like to edit. I personally, I guess I'm used to the AxeFX2 for now. I still use the nav buttons. That's what they're called, nav buttons. And then the value knob. So I like to do this, bass, mids. I guess for me, I'm focusing on one thing at a time. That's, I guess in my mind, that's what I'm doing. But remember, you can move your hand, oh my goodness, all the way down here and just use, for the most part, just use these controls, treble, mid, bass, drive. And then from here, oh, how do I get to the next row? Press row, it's right there. Boom, input, trim, presence, depth, master, and level. So that's how you edit a block, either using the knobs under the screen or, as we used to, the nav and value functions. Now let's page right to the next page, and same thing. I can use the knobs or the nav to adjust all this stuff, but I don't even touch this stuff. This is advanced stuff. I don't know what this does. I do use the output EQ from time to time, and pressing up and down on the output EQ page in the amp block changes the type of EQ. There's a quick tip. Hopefully you caught that one. I usually use 5-band passive personally. Anyway, more pages. A lot of blocks. At the very last page has a list of a ton of stuff. Now, when you're in this list view, you can see it's vertical rather than knobular, as I'll call it. So the knobs correspond here this way, which makes sense. 5 knobs here, 5 knobs there. But in a list view, and this is like the AxFX2, A through E knobs correspond to vertically whatever is selected. Now, I personally don't use the knobs in this setup most of the time. I'll still use nav and value. So up and down navigates a item one at a time. You can see that blue line moving to whatever I'm selecting, right? And then the value knob is what would change the item. So let's go to here to the cathode follower compression, which I totally know what that does. And I'm gonna use the value knob to change it. I could use A here, it'll work. I could use B, therefore, to change this one and so on, but I don't like to do that. That's just me. Now, let's say I have a long list like this. You see how many things we have. How do I get up and down faster? Well, let's start up at the top. You can see that took too long. Left and right from here kind of jumps. I think it's 5 or so items at a time. So you can see I'm jumping through this list way faster. There's that. Left and right to go up and down in groups versus one at a time. So that's basically how to navigate through any block and type of display. There's a list display like this. There's a knob display like this. This also you would use nav left and right. And the value knob, you can also use the knobs here if there's enough for the type that's displayed. This is another list. This is the new input EQ, so you can shape the sound of your guitar before it even goes in. There's another list, more knobs. So that's a quick view of how to edit that. Anyway, from here, let's say I knew what parameters I wanted to set without hearing it like we did. We're gonna press exit just to go back to the layout, and then we're gonna continue making our preset. Now, I'm gonna go a little quicker now. I could either cable right to the next block and then change it to cab. And let's explore the cab block real quick. So remember, I wanna edit the cab block. I press edit. Now, the cab block is new as well. As you can see, within one cab block, I'm in cab 1, there are 4 cab slots. These are IR slots. And I can put up to 4 IRs or cab sounds in here and mix them sort of like a mini cab lab. We have a ton of IRs to choose from. There's Factory 1, which has 1024, Factory 2, which has another 1024, User 1 and 2, where you can load your own stuff, 1024 in each. And then we have a legacy selection, which is all the cabs in order from the AxFX 2 series. So we still, if we had a favorite cab there, we can still get to it. There's also a scratch pad for loading new cabs and things like that, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Anyway, Factory 1, we have tons. So make sure you know where your blue cursor is, your selection box. Right now I had it on bank in cab 1, and I could choose what bank of cabs to use, factory or this or that. We're going to nav down. This is a list style. And we're going to change the number within the bank. Now, from here, I can audition all of these, and I could change these one by one. You can see I'm using the value wheel to change cabs. And 15, 16, 17, you can see the name up here as you change it. Really nice. But let's say you want to see all the cabs or more than one. When you're on the number selection, press the enter button and you get a list of cabs. So now we have this longer list similar to what the amp block sort of looks like of all these cabs. And I'm purposely doing this without sound just so we can focus on the screen instead of like auditioning everything. Anyway, there's all these cabs. Now, this list is huge. How do I possibly look through all of these things? Well, you can either sort it A to Z, similar to the preset list. Let's press that A button, and it'll sort it A to Z. Now, remember, a lot of these start with 1 by 12 or whatever. So that's the alphabetical order there. Let's turn that off. It changes a little bit. Or you can filter cabs. If I press the C button, right now the filter's off. If I press it, I get only the 1 by 4 cabs in this bank. Now that's an important thing to know. So check this out. In this bank, there are these 4 1x4 cabs. Press it again, 1x6. Press it again, 1x8 options, 1x10, 1x12, 1x15, 2x10, 212. Now I get to my 410 selection, my filter of 410, and there's nothing there. I swear someone told me there's some 4x10 cabs. I'll press it again. Oh, there's no 4x12 cabs? There's no way. Something's wrong. Well, it's not wrong. It's just in this bank, factory 1, there aren't any 412 cabs. Press exit here, E, or exit here to go back. Remember, we have factory 1 with 1,024 cabs. We have factory 2 with another 1,024 cabs. Let's do this in factory 2. We're going to go to the number parameter. Again, that's the important thing. If you press enter from here, it won't do anything. You have to go to the number selection, where you could either select 1 by 1 here, or you press enter, and now you have a lot of cabs. So let's go through the filter again. Right now it's off. Press it once. 1x4. No 1x4s here. None of those. None of those. Oh, 2x12s. Okay, now we start seeing the cabs. This factory bank has 2x12, so I can choose all of those. 4x10s, there's some of those. 4x12s, thank goodness there's some of those. And again, it just didn't appear in factory 1 because there weren't any. The same thing works for your user cabs as well. Anyway, you have level. You can mute them. And this is how you disable extra cabs. You want to make sure that cabs 2 through 4 are muted if you don't want to use them. And most likely at the beginning, you don't want those to be used. So make sure those are muted. We have a pan left and right. We have mic distance, which used to be the delay parameter in the AxFX 2. And proximity, which is just sort of a low frequency increase. And then smoothing, which is dephase. It used to be called dephase in the AxFX 2. So that's the cab block. Pretty simple. You probably want to just stick with cab column 1, choose the bank that you want, choose the IR that you want, and then you're set. Here's our preamp and air and room stuff, things like that. You can figure that out on your own for now. We're going to exit that. And now let's finish creating our preset. That's what we're doing as I explain things. So let's cable over from here, and let's add a simple delay block. Let's go to delay 1, hit enter, and then let's put an output block so we can hear this. Cable, enter, and let's put output 1 because that's what I am using physically. Enter, and there it is. Now if we play, who knows what this will sound like? Let's see. It's there, but it's very quiet. Let's see why. Let's go to our amp block, which is pretty much the source of our level. We can either go to our edit screen and see our level is way down, -40. So we could change it from here, which I'll do just to show you. Or from this view, we could have changed it here. Remember, we have a shortcut to block level right here. I wonder if that is good for the VU meter. Well, where is the VU meter? It's in the zoom out screen. There's that. And I'm going to play. It's a little bit under. Let's change that while we play. And there we go. We've created our first preset. We have a blank space here, which we could put a compressor or something in front of that if we wanted to, but it's fine. We have input, a blank space, amp, cab, delay, and output, and we're looking at the zoomed out view so we can see the VU meter, and we see our CPU right here. We have a little tuner. We can move around. We can change block level, and we can change amp channels. Since we have the amp block selected, we could change delay channels here, A, B, C, D, and we can change scenes from here as well. Kind of fun. Now, how do you save this? Well, you want to hit the store button. So you want to store the preset. Sometimes those words are used interchangeably, store versus save. Hit store. And right now, you start out with the location. So when you hit store, you go to the store menu, and you want to make sure you know what line you're on. Right now, I'm in the location line. If I start turning things like B, which says location for the turn function or value, I'm actually going to move the preset around. You really want to make sure you're not doing this. And this is the same on the AxFX 2 and any other gear. What location are you storing it to? Well, we were on 450. Thankfully, I remember. So we don't want to change that. So what you want to do is nav down, using the nav arrows, or the shortcut is the turn knob A. Remember, always look down here to see what's available. And so let's name the preset something real quick. Right now it says empty. I want to name it A. Well, let's give it a longer name. So A, I'm turning this for capitals, turning this for lowercase, D for lowercase, and this for numbers. So let's call this first preset. 1, I've selected 1. I'm going to use B to move the cursor. As you can see, it moves all over the place. So we'll move it here, and let's do S. Move it over, lowercase t first. Now, I need a space here. What do? I can press insert, and it'll insert a space there, right? So let's put another space just to do it that way. I'm going to cursor over, and let's do capital P. I know there was one there, but oh well. R. Let's just call it first pre. First pre. There's some other stuff here. How do I get rid of this? I could move this and go to the back and find out where it empties out. Or I could just press delete, the E button, delete. Squishes it over, delete. There it is, first pre. Now from here, I would just save it. I've done some work. I named it. I don't want to lose anything. So store, enter, enter is the mantra. I've already pressed enter once. I press enter twice to confirm. And there it is, first pre. Remember, store, enter, enter. That is the mantra. Store, enter, enter. All right. From the store menu, again, I can also name some scenes. Let's call this clean. So I'm going to name that real quick. And I'm done. So I'm going to hit enter, enter. I'm already in store. So I've already hit store, enter, enter. And it's called clean. Now let's say I want to call scene 2 clean chorus. Now do I need to type clean again? I don't. I select scene 1, and then I'm going to press copy. Now this copies the entire line. Copy. Now I'm going to nav down and press paste. Clean. There it is. Now I'm going to go over here, and let's just call this clean 2, because that's what I've set up, and enter, enter. There it is. So now I have scene 1 clean, scene 2 clean 2, with a little bit of quick copy and paste. So that's how you store the preset you've made. All right, this video turned out way longer than I wanted to. I enjoy explaining things, I think, and I wanted to make sure people understand how this works. But that's a quick overview of the AxeFX 3. It's very, very fun. So the main things you want to watch out for, you want to look down here always to see what the contextual menus show. Sort has appeared, tuner is here. If I go into the layout, these change. The rectangle box is what the press function is, and the above that is the turn function of each knob. VU meters are on the layout. You can zoom in and out, navigate several ways, the CPU and all of that. There's just so much in here, and it's great workflow, and it helps us create presets and use the unit. So that was a quick overview. Thanks so much for watching. Last thing, there's a meters button. You can show how loud each block is on its own. Check this out. Oh my God. Oh no, there's a problem. Something's silent. Why? Oh, it's this block because the meter's not working. Things like that. Oh, there's so much I could show you. Anyway, super exciting. Glad you have your AxeFX 3. Check it out. Thanks for watching. I'll be making some more in-depth videos, some other videos for YouTube, and things like that. So thanks. See ya.